The NBA playoffs are set. Sunday was the final day of the season, and what's interesting about the last day compared to previous seasons is the fact that a lot more teams were playing their starters compared to where usually teams on the final day will rest their players, and then you see some extremely crazy stat lines from their third stringers. Kenneth Lofton Jr. is one of them, and each time he goes crazy on the final day. And before I get into this, leave a like, consider subscribing maybe, and comment any thoughts you have on the video. So we had some major changes that took place on Sunday. Looking at the East, this here were the standings before the games were finished. The Celtics already clinched the first seed, so they haven't been playing their starters for the past few games, but everything from the second to the 8th seed were liable to change based on how the games ended. The Bucks went against the Magic and it ended up being pretty one-sided. Dame particularly didn't play very well, and with this loss, a win from the Knicks, who were tied in wins with them, would move them up to the 2nd seed. They did exactly that, beating the Bulls in overtime thanks to a 40-point performance from Jalen Brunson, who's honestly been playing like a top 5 player for over a month at this point. What's somewhat disappointing about these standings is that the Bucks, I think a majority of the NBA community expected so much more from the duo of Dame and Giannis, yet they didn't even get 50 wins this season. Onto the 4th to 8th seeds, the Cavaliers without Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland lost to the Hornets, making them end up as the 4th seed, and with the Bucks losing, if they had won against the Hornets, they would have been the 3rd seed instead. Now with the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th seeds, here's where it gets complicated, because each of these teams had must wins today if they wanted a chance to get a top 6 seed, and they all ended up winning their matchups, which didn't change much. The Sixers and the Heat stayed in the play-in, but the Magic and the Pacers kept the 5th and 6th seeds. For the Sixers to make the play-in, they would have needed the Pacers to win and the Magic to lose, and then they would get the 6th seed because they have the tiebreaker over the Magic. For the Heat to get the 6th seed, they would have needed the Magic to lose to the Bucks and the Pacers lose to the Hawks, both of which did not happen. Then below these teams is the Bulls and the Hawks, who were stuck in the 9th and 10th seeds, and so they'll be having the ultimate mid-off, with the winner of that matchup going up against the loser of the Heat versus Sixers game, which is sure to be cinema. Next is the Western Conference, where the entire conference could change based on specific circumstances. With the Spurs beating the Nuggets on Friday, the outcome of who comes out of the West could have completely been changed. If the Nuggets had won, they'd have had the most wins in the West and clinched the 1st seed, but because they didn't, there was a 3-way tie between the Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Timberwolves. To begin with, there was a total of 7 different scenarios that could have happened, but I'm just going to explain some of them to give you an idea of what was at stake. Here is the scenario where all teams have the same record after Sunday. If all 3 of them won or lost, the Thunder are the 1st seed, the Timberwolves are the 2nd, and the Nuggets are the 3rd. They would all be tied in wins and losses, so to decide the 1st seed, you would use the individual team's record against the other 2 teams. The Thunder have the best record against the Wolves and Nuggets combined, so that's why they get the 1st. Then to decide the 2nd and the 3rd seed, you would use the divisional tiebreaker, which the Wolves have a better record than the Nuggets in. What's fortunate for the Thunder, which I'll talk about that later, is that all they had to do was win on Sunday against the Mavericks, while the Timberwolves lose against the Suns, and they would get the 1st seed, and that's because regardless of whether Denver wins against the Grizzlies, they hold the tiebreaker, so they'll get the 1st seed regardless. The Timberwolves had a major chance for the 1st seed if they had won while the Thunder won and the Nuggets lost, because they had the tiebreaker against the Thunder. And a scenario where the Nuggets get the 1st seed is only if both the Thunder and the Timberwolves lose, because they don't hold the tiebreaker over either team. What ended up happening is that the Thunder and Nuggets won their games, but the Timberwolves lost, so the second scenario which I brought up happened, and that's how they ended up as the 3rd seed. Below these teams are the Clippers and the Mavericks, both teams that didn't have anything to play for since no teams below them could overtake them in the standings, so they opted to rest their main guys. With the Pelicans and the Suns, the respective 6th and 7th seeds, we have the Pelicans lose to the Lakers, and the Suns beat the Timberwolves, which resulted in the Pelicans dropping to the 7th seed in the last game of the season because the Suns held a tiebreaker, which I'm not worried about because I was really hoping to see the Pelicans in the playoffs, and that may not even happen now because they have to go against the Lakers, and this season they've struggled against them a lot. The Kings and Warriors only had a chance at the 8th seed if the Lakers had lost, because they both won their season series against the Lakers, but with the Lakers win, neither team even got a chance despite winning their games as well. So we've got the Pelicans versus the Lakers, and the Warriors will be having a winner go home game against the Kings once again. When I said that the Thunder getting the 1st seed would be fortunate earlier, I meant it as in them likely not getting the Lakers in the first round, because throughout the season, it's just been a bad matchup for them because one of their weaknesses is size, and while the regular season may not hold much weight compared to the playoffs, it was pretty evident in their games against one another that the Lakers could easily dominate the paint on offense and get physical with them on the defensive end, resulting in the Lakers winning 3 out of the 4 games against them. If the Lakers beat the Pelicans, they'll be the 7th seed and go up against the Nuggets, so the Thunder would get to avoid them there. Now, this video was just about how the standings came about. If you want to hear me give my opinion on what I think about the matchups with the other teams, look out for my next video where I'll be talking about my predictions and my thoughts on some of the matchups in the playoffs. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.